Hey, do you work with your spouse or significant other in business? Do you run into tension trying to balance the relationship building and business building? Do you also run into balancing with the kids, sports and activities, and they want your time and want to pull you away? Where's the balance between building your business and making sacrifices to do that, and building your family and making sacrifices to do that without ruining either one of them or both of them? On Business Village tonight, we're going to talk about that exact topic and give you some of the strategies that we've used. If you saw the last episode, I've been married to my wife Heather now. As of in a week, it will be 16 years married, 17 years together. I actually got that wrong when I said it out last week. So 16 years married, 17 together. Kirk is a dad of three kids for 20 plus years now.
I've been a dad for uh, 11 years. So I have a 22-year-old, but all my kids are adopted. So adopted
They
from,
adopted him.
yeah, they adopted me out of foster care. And so I became a dad in 2012.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And
So I guess
then
a little bit longer. That's crazy.
time
Yeah.
flies when things are crazy. And then Tim, you've been married for how long?
A year this month.
But you've been with your wife for like 10 years, 8 years,
Five,
five?
six.
I don't know where I'm getting my numbers from.
Marketing numbers.
Market numbers are always a little inflated. Well, let's dive in. I have questions for the guys, and we're gonna talk back and forth. And if you're just tuning in, you're watching live on YouTube or Instagram or anywhere on Facebook, we go live early. So if you want to go live early with us, make sure you go to the description, register for the call so you can get the notifications because we actually do Q&A before we kick off live here on all these platforms. And we had some great conversation with everyone, kind of identifying what are the greatest challenges because you want to grow your business, but if you grow your business and you ruin your family, well, what was the point? And if you grow your family, but your business fails and you can't take care of your family in the way you want, what was the point? So, how do you have the best of both worlds? How do you have your cake and eat it too? Or speaking of kids, how do you have your goldfish and eat it too? However you want to put it, doesn't matter. So, I'll pose this question. Um, kind of share. We'll start with Tim. What's the experience been for you in running businesses? And you've run businesses, you've consulted, you've worked with a lot of startups. You've been a key guy, really helping the business scale and grow. But you've also been married at the same time. How do you, how's that experience been, and how do you manage that?
I mean, take some of this with a grain of salt because this is the second marriage. So potentially there is some failure in that. But I think if I look at the perspective in the first marriage, I attempted what I thought was work-life balance,
Mm,
and I failed utterly at it because I used my calendar very quickly to just appropriate work time, and I forgot to give my wife at the time access. And so she was
Hmm.
always curious about what was going on.
right.
And similar to some of the other comments we've kind of talked about before going live, um, like a lot of men, I compartmentalize a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can have a really, really bad day, but go home and be like, I have to be strong for her and not actually tell her. And one of the cruxes of why our marriage failed is because I wasn't as open as I probably should have been
Mm,
of some of the struggles and
yeah.
explaining why my calendar was completely bogged down with work and I couldn't be available for family commitments.
I know a lot. I can definitely relate to that and making mistakes. And some of you watching, you're on your second, maybe you're on your third marriage, and we're not perfect. I'm still in my first marriage, but I've made enough mistakes for multiple marriages. Um, my wife was just not smart enough to leave me. Um,
she,
she'd
she's
laugh at
way
that,
smarter than you.
but
Or
we
she just knows the pain is worth it, like most.
yeah she I think to wrap my mind around that, I mean, is a lot. But I made the mistake of not showing up and saying, "Here's where I'm struggling. Here's where I'm here. Here's where you can show up for me."
Yeah.
Is really the question. Whether it's your husband or wife, your significant other. Kirk's in an exciting phase where
Yeah.
he's got a significant other and a
Yeah.
fiance, and how's he? I get the updates, and I like her. I haven't spent a lot of time with her, but I like her a lot. one,
She's pretty great.
yeah, I mean, she tolerates this guy. She must be pretty awesome.
She laughs at my jokes. I
She
mean,
laughs at his jokes, which that's a gracious woman right there. Uh, but you often say that she's really excited, and it's one thing. There's the challenge of, and I'll speak to the other side, but one side of it is for the two of you when you have a significant other or spouse that's not involved directly in the business, but they still are. And then in my case, Heather, who's our chief of operations, is in the business full on. So talk about your experience with Megan, and she's excited about it, even though she's not technically a part of it.
well, I would say that she's a part of it in the sense that she's a part of the day to day. And I guess I'll start with this: play to your strengths. So I'm in the people side of the business. I talk about development. I talk about leadership a lot. I don't talk about finance very much. I don't talk about marketing. But one thing that we do is we talk about what went well with your day.
Mm.
If you could do everything over again, what's one thing that you would pick out that you would do over? We don't get this opportunity in real time, but if we bring people along, we can say, this is what went really well today. I'm really
Yeah.
excited about this. We were talking to a team member, and it was kind of the one conversation that went really well.
Mm-hmm.
It's making headway on content that we're developing for learning and growth inside of businesses with business owners and with their team.
Yeah.
We launched a training track with a client this afternoon. Megan knows that stuff. She gets to see it. She gets to see kind of the the raw,
Yeah.
and then she gives me her feedback of as an employee, and she works in the dental airway space, and so she she gives me the perspective of a team member. And so it's like I see it from leadership, and then I try to kind of project that onto
Yeah.
team members.
Hmm.
But she gives me the feedback from a team member's perspective and says, "Well, I know where you're going with this, but this is where it's falling short."
Yeah.
And so bringing that in, I will say that um, bringing her in the conversation, bringing again, playing to your strengths. 3 weeks ago, we did our personal, professional, and financial goal setting weekend.
Which, by the
Um,
way, I think is great. Like we do, Kirk created this process we call Target 12, where you're setting your 12-month targets, but he does something on his birthday, which is a week after mine. He goes out and with his family, and you can actually set goals for
yeah,
the year. Like
yeah,
that's how you celebrate your birthday.
yeah. So we do a little bit of pre-call planning,
Mm.
if you will. So I sent her the Target 12 platform, and so we come prepared to have a conversation. A little bit of beating up of the
Yeah.
goals in the sense of, is this truly what you want?
Mhm.
And how are we going to get there? Coming out of that, we wanted these certain revenue targets as a business, but then you start to metabolize that and digest that for your own, and
Mhm.
so that becomes part of those professional and financial goals. And I'll be honest with you, it scared both of us,
Yeah.
not because of it being more than we can handle, but if we were to get to this, everything that I do mathematically equates back to people.
Mhm.
It's if we were to get to this target, it's this many businesses, which means it's this many business owners. And for this
Yeah.
conversation, you take the businesses, you multiply that by two, and then you take every one of those worksite employees and you multiply that by 3.5. And so you start to get the magnitude of what you're saying you want,
Yeah.
and then you realize, holy cow, if we hit this goal, we will in effect have impacted somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,500 people
Yeah. And
in
that's
in a year.
yeah. And my goal for this year is to impact 10,000, and that's just business owners, not including their significant others, their kids,
Yeah,
their the dog and the cat and the parakeet and whatever
we
animals
don't
that
count cats.
we don't.
So
Cats are evil.
cats are
If you like cats, we forgive you.
cats don't have a soul.
Cats, cats are. Just go watch cat videos. Those little suckers are
So
evil.
again, not really a cat person, but how do cats not have a soul if they're throughout all of history, they're the ones that are like guardians of the underworld. How do they not have a soul?
The underworld, Tim. The evil
Yeah.
side of things. The
Yeah.
underworld.
In order to make it to the underworld, you have to have a soul because you have to be outcast.
Or you have
I
to
don't know.
create the
I'm just
underworld.
saying. You know, cats. You see.
Okay. It's fair. Anyway,
You,
back on topic. I do have a kind of a follow up question
yeah.
for Kirk.
Yeah.
Your conversation, the annual conversation, really your family's annual planning.
Mm-hmm.
Would you not say that that conversation is crucial in maintaining open communication? Because I know, speaking from personal experience, when you talked about that conversation last year, I actually did it with Denise,
Oh wow.
and in an attempt to,
Oh,
again,
cool.
similar for business owners and business partners always being on the same page. Your wife, whether she's in the business or not,
Yeah.
should be a business partner.
Yeah.
And you should treat them as such.
Let's highlight that real quick. What Tim just said. Whether your, we'll say, significant other, your spouse is in the business or not, they are a business partner. They may just not have a salary and a title in the business, but they really are your
100%.
business partner. Yeah, I
100%.
agree.
Because again, it allows you to provide balance in your life, whether that is the professional life or the personal life.
Yeah.
Because then you can lean on each other.
Mm-hmm.
And she may not have an active role in the business, but if she has a general idea of what's happening, I know in my case, Denise can understand when I'm a little bit more friction bound in
Yeah.
conversations because of undue stress.
Well,
Yeah, to answer the question, I would say one, it does clear up a lot of the um, time constraints because one, she knows what the 12-month targets are for me, but also I know the 12-month targets for her.
Yeah.
We also identify these bigger goals, the big, hairy, audacious goals that are 3 and 5 years out. And I'll just kind of say that when there are seasons where you're pressing.
yeah.
And it's in those seasons where the only light in the room are the 3 monitors in front of your face and everybody else is asleep. If I don't have that level of transparency with her, and it goes with the kids because the kids are a part of these goal conversations as well. And so if we don't have that level of transparency, it could, because she can't see the other side of that target,
That's
it
true.
may feel like this is going to go on in perpetuity if I don't speak into this and tell him or tell her, you got to cut this out.
Yeah.
It's me coming to the table saying, hey, we're pressing for this date target.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be either less available or more engaged in this thing. And I will say that when I communicate in that fashion, I don't have to ask for grace. I get extended grace.
Yeah, that's really good. I had to do that with Heather this past week because we're going into the middle of launching some new marketing campaigns, and we're building a lot of things because we have big, hairy, audacious goals to reach a lot of business owners this year and make a lot of impact and transformation. And if you look at recent posts that on our social media, you see the transformations of clients, and we want 100 of those stories by the end of this year. But I had to tell her, hey, move for this next week, I got to be head down. Here's what I have to build. Here's what I have to do. And you're right. I've noticed over the years when I've really messed it up, not telling her what's going on, not giving her insight into why I'm working literally 20 hours a day,
Yeah.
getting 4 hours of sleep, and then getting up and doing it again. She goes from support to concern, which is still support, trying to be supportive, but it's more concerned because she doesn't know what, like, why are you working like this? Is something wrong? When is this, like you said, when is it going to end? Like, I have to give her a finish line, give her an update. And then because she knows me, I was thinking this earlier, she knows me better than anyone. So she can gauge and tell when I need to slow down and tell me, hey, please, she'll literally come to me and say, hey, I know you got to get a lot of stuff done, but please don't burn yourself out.
Yeah.
Hey, please take a break. Hey, come away.
I will tell you, there's a great deal of comfort. Um, I probably get 1 to 3 of these depending on the week, but I will get a text generally in the middle of the day if she knows that I'm having one of those days, or if I've expressed, hey, this is the target, and maybe I missed the target by a day or a half day. Instead of holding my nose to the grindstone, I get this text that says, what support can I provide today?
Hmm.
It's like,
Yeah.
If
That's
you,
not an easy question to answer.
if you want to put more gas in my tank, ask me how you can help me,
Yeah.
and I will probably lovingly say, I'm good, but I appreciate that.
Hmm.
But on the back side of that, without that, I don't know that I've got the mental endurance to press through the next needed 3 hours.
That's a good point. Whether it's husband to wife, wife to husband, fiancés, whatever, it's just offering the support. So there's two sides of it. It's one, the ability to offer the support does so much for the significant other that is really pressing in and working. And on their side, it's being able to receive that
Yep.
and like you just did, say even there's nothing really I need support with right now, but really you even asking me is the support I need. It's that
Yep.
safety line knowing if I break down, you're going to be there to catch me. I don't need it right now, but I'd rather go skydiving with a or flying a plane with a parachute, not need it, than need it and not have it.
For sure. I will say that for everybody on the call, um, knowing how you personally communicate and receive communication, step one. Understanding
Mm.
how your partner, business partner, um, communicates and receives communication, I think is step two. And if you can speak to that person, and I will say that I'm a very high driver dominant personality. Megan is a very stabilizing force in our relationship and in our home.
Mm.
And if I don't speak to the stabilizing force, meaning I don't give her enough of the story so she can make peace with the situation, she will be lost in chaos and start to retreat from the situation, feeling unneeded.
Hmm.
Same thing for me. If I don't understand that I'm a dominant personality, I'm a lot to take.
We agree.
If I don't know that, if I don't know that and I go in thinking she just needs to receive the bullet points of my life
Hmm.
and be okay with that, then I'm going to miss the mark in my communication to her. But she's also going to be lost in this kind of chaos of I don't have enough information to make peace with the information that I'm told.
That's interesting. Heather and I are both high driver. Um, she has a little more of the supportive nature than I do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can have a tendency to run people over. I can get really tunnel vision. But what's interesting is even though we're both high drivers, both highly analytical, it's rarely at the same time,
Hmm.
and we pull each other out of it. And I mean, it's really important. I would recommend just kind of what you said, knowing your love language. There's a book by Dr. Gary Chapman, The Five Love Languages. If you're in any kind of relationship, even if you're single and you're in business, read that book and apply that book. Understand how you receive support, love, and how you give it, and then understand how others receive it. Because so much, the only thing that was valuable that I learned in my first semester of the first college that I dropped out of after the first semester,
Every episode.
because it was
is
garbage.
is how to do paperwork.
It was that communication is 90%, is only 10% what's communicated, and is 90% what's received. And if we don't know
Absolutely.
how someone receives, then we're going to communicate based on how we receive, which may not be how they receive.
I will also say to dovetail into that, communication is 90% your responsibility on what they hear.
Say that again. Some people need to take a moment and swallow that, because that one is tough in those moments.
Yeah. So 90% of the message that's received is your responsibility. And I've got a 14-year-old. I feel like I've got a ton of kids. Well, I do. Um, I've got seven altogether and five at home. And we've got two teenagers
Mike
that,
Brady over here.
yeah, we've got we're quite the bunch. Um, but we've got two, 13 and 14, that love to have an opinion and don't necessarily want to communicate.
Hmm.
And so it's interesting. John Maxwell talks about the law of the mirror. And the interesting thing about this is they both dislike the thing about themselves that annoys each other
Yeah.
about themselves, but they don't see it. And so a lot of times just putting it in front of them of, this is what you said,
Yeah.
this is what was heard, this is what was heard, this is what was said. And we don't get the luxury of having a moderator in our conversations. But if you were to just have a conversation, and before you allow it to reach frustration, take a necessary breath, take a step back, figuratively or literally, and just look and listen to what has been communicated. And a lot of times, and I coach people on this a lot, but if you say something that once you hear it doesn't communicate what you intended, stop, take it back. Let that didn't land the way that I needed it to land. Let me take that back. Let me retry.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that you will get more credibility in your intention when you're purposeful in your communication like that.
Yeah.
You and I again, I'll just speak from the man's point of view, but a lot of times we feel like we've got to have it all together, we've got to have it all buttoned up, we've got to have it all figured out. But I can tell you that I get more credibility with those that I'm leading when I admit that I didn't land the plane where I wanted to, and I have to pull up and I have to try again.
Yeah. There's a lot packed in there. Um, this is why we're doing this episode on family, and we're talking about family. We haven't really talked a lot about business. Truly, it's been family and the connection to business and the impact of each on the other. But we do this, and we talked about marriage last week because when you build a business, unless you are single and you have no relationships and no family, you have to consider the impact of your family on the business and vice versa. And when we are consulting business owners, we've had multiple situations where we'll go into a business, and the thing that we find is if there are major problems, it always goes back to a relationship. And if you have a husband and wife business owner or family members who are business owners, every single problem can be traced back to those people.
Yeah. Well, they say.
Why do you think that is?
Because I like saying there are three currencies of business, and the true currency is relationship. Everything is relationship. Your client getting customers is about building relationship. Hiring people is about building relationship. Everything is relationship. So every problem stems from relationship and can be fixed at the level of relationship.
The last thing you said was key.
Yeah.
You
I'd like
can
you to go
fix
deeper.
it at the key at the base of the relationship.
Yeah.
Go deeper if you could.
You're pulling at a thread.
I am.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
What?
It's great.
So if you think about
they got it. I'm
yeah, if you think about it, who gets the most leeway in your business?
oh, it's the people that you're closest to.
Yep.
Because you don't want to hurt their feelings or offend them.
Well, you also have to either go home with them or see them at Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah. So why are almost all of the major problems in any business related to that relationship?
I'd say in part, and this is something Heather and I have had to work really hard on, and we're better at it now. We're not perfect at it. It's a constantly work in progress, but you have to leave work at the office and leave the personal at home. And if you work at home, you've got to leave that space in the house and go into your other role. You have to in business. We tend to compartmentalize. My role is this: I'm the CEO. I oversee sales, marketing, in addition, finance, whatever it is. But when it comes to relationship, we tend to let that bleed over, and then that causes all kinds of problems. So we've got to be able to draw lines and say we're not in business right now. I am talking to you as my significant other. You may have your I can tell Heather your boss was a jerk today. I'm gonna come and differently.
I will also kind of going on that same thing. I would say over the last 10 years I've been better about it, but I will be completely transparent in saying the first 10, my first fruit went to my customers.
Mm.
And then family got the leftovers.
I want to highlight that real quick. You said your first fruit. For those of you who don't know, that's a biblical term. There's a principle in the Bible of tithing. Give the best of what you have, the cream of the crop, right off the top, and you give it back to God. That same principle, are you doing that with your time, your energy, your money,
Yep.
and giving the best of what you have to your family first, and then giving everyone else the leftovers? Your customers won't notice the difference as much as your family will.
I, I'm reminded coming out of the Christmas season, we spend so much creativity and energy and really this focused time to make sure that we're attracting the right customers, we're serving the customers once we have them, we're generating revenue for our business, and all of those things are important. At Christmas time, uh, I probably spent 3 hours planning a game night. And it sounds crazy, but we're 2 months removed from Christmas,
Hmm.
and almost every Friday and Saturday, that 2 day game show style game night thing is what they talk about. They're like, when are we going to do that? And I literally have a box of prizes in my closet ready for the next game night.
Wow.
Like, they loved it. But I say all that to say that we put a lot of time and attention in marketing campaigns or a spreadsheet with these dynamic formulas or leadership and development content that lands.
Yeah.
What are we doing to do that at home? I mean, what is it that we're saying, okay, once a month we're going to do this game night, or we're going to do board games, or we're going to do whatever it
Yeah.
is to have everybody in the house know that you get my time, talent,
Hmm.
resources, my gifts. I'm going to spend that on you, with
Yeah.
you, creating memories. It doesn't have to take a lot of money. I think I probably spent um, maybe 200 bucks at Target the morning of
Hmm.
to collect prizes. I bought this toddler toy of like a delivery truck, and we did Christmas gift delivery where they had to ride this little bitty truck through the house, and we had different stops. They like went berserk. That thing cost me 20 bucks, and I will tell you that I've gotten more mileage out of that $20 than $20 on a Facebook ad. I know that hurts.
Hey, but no, it's true. Like what you're saying is like being intentional. I'll say this to all the business owners out there. If you want to know if your business is struggling, if your business is doing really well, and you want to know why, because sometimes our business goes well and we're like, okay, what am I doing? I don't know exactly. Things just going really well, and we need to take inventory of why. But it's more difficult when it's not going well, and then we need to take honest inventory of why. Show me your relationships, your family relationships, and I will show you with pinpoint accuracy why your business is thriving or it's not thriving. Heather and I, we all talked about this. So Tim and I have a first Thursday of the month. We go get cigars and we talk. We have a financial meeting. Where's the business going? What am I thinking vision wise? Am I on track? What does he need me to pay attention to financially? Kirk and I today said, okay, we're going to start doing a monthly because I do one on ones with the team. We're going to start doing that, and we're going to get out of the office and like go play golf or something, and then talk business and connect, because these I want to cultivate these relationships and things we connect on. I do the same thing with my wife. We said, you know what? Our daughter she's really involved in church. She's doing an internship. Every Sunday night, she's there for a couple hours, and our life just gets so busy. But because we want everything to revolve around family, we now on Sunday nights we'll drop her off, and then we'll go on a date, and
Yep.
that's our time to connect while we're getting other things done. And a lot of times the excuse is from us as business owners, and I own this too, I have to get these business things done and I have to put in the time. But and Tim, you said something at the beginning about work-life balance. For a lot of years, I stopped believing in work-life balance. I still don't believe in work-life balance in the traditional sense. When you think of balance, you think, think of you're on a seesaw.
You
You
think
know,
50-50.
yeah, 50-50. Equal weight, you got a
Yep.
50-pound kid on one side, you got a 100-pound parent, like that's not equal. But the interesting thing in business, and I'm going to say this slow because so you guys pick this up, the weight of the relationships in your business are not the same, are less than the equal in your family. So if you have 5 people in your family and you got 5 people in your business, the weight of those family relationships is more. So you will spend more time in business, quantity wise, with those people. And it's not about spending as much time with your family as you do in business, because that just doesn't make sense. You have an 8, 10 hour workday, and you're not going to get 8, 10 hours a day with your family. But the hour that you spend with your kids before they go to bed, the half an hour you spend with your spouse before you go to bed carries more or as much weight as the entire 8, 10 hour day in business. So relieve yourself of the pressure to equal out the time. Instead, align the time and be intentional. 1 hour a week with my wife, just focus with her, having dinner, laughing, talking, is worth an entire day.
For
That
sure.
is all it takes to maintain a healthy marriage and then go back into business and be able to spend 8, 10 hours and have her still feel like she's more important.
The count of minutes is not what matters,
No,
but the minutes that count is what matters.
that'll preach.
I
That's a soundbite right there. No,
yeah, I will echo that as well. Our youngest had never seen snow
that's
up
crazy to me.
until 3 weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
and I will tell you, seeing her friggin' little face get up to Flagstaff and see snow for the first time, it
Wow.
was as if she was living inside of a snow globe and she just had this thing pinned on her face. It was one of the most rewarding things.
Yeah. I can relate. I didn't see real snowfall until I was 2016, so however many years back in my 30s, because I grew up in an island, my 30s, and those moments, you don't want to miss those moments.
For
Like,
sure.
we're running a business, and a lot of businesses, you won't, sometimes you don't have the freedom to do that. There's been multiple times where Tim or Kirk have said to me, "Hey, got this family thing going on. Need to. Are you okay if I miss this meeting?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's not a question. If it's family, you better not show up. And if I find out you skipped your family thing to do work, then that's a conversation. If you skip work to your family thing, communicate. That's not a conversation, because if that isn't going well, that's going to bleed over to business, and that's another part of the whole balance. If you take the time, and I struggle with this every single day. I feel like I have to take time away for myself just to, I have a threshold of what I can handle emotionally.
Yeah.
So there are mornings where I'll go out for an hour, sit in the sun, smoke a cigar, and just completely ignore work. But then when I go back to work, I'm so much more productive because I'm in the headspace. So if you're rushing out the door to go to the office, you know what? Because you have so much to do, don't take a half hour in the morning, sit with your kid and eat Cheerios. Sit with your kid and stay up, and half an hour later, don't, before you go back to work, spend a half hour with your spouse talking, spend a half hour with your kid. You lose an hour, but you will be more productive, because when your heart is full, when you are emotionally centered and fulfilled, you will produce better than being emotionally exhausted.
Hmm. For sure. I would I would love to, in the chat, if you guys can share those mental resets that you use on a daily or weekly. Um, for me, I I have to have that necessary breath.
Mhm.
So going from the office, whether it's the office at home or the commute, it's not just turning on the latest podcast or dumping right back into my Audible, which I'm a little bit of an addict. Um, but being intentional with that time, clocking out of Altru, clocking into Jewell LLC,
Yeah.
and really making sure that I am showing up, whether I'm cooking dinner or being engaged at the table. Like we don't eat around the TV, we don't eat at the island. It's the table time, and it's those moments where you're going around and we talk about, sharing wins and
Mhm.
things that didn't go right, but translating that down to a workforce, if you will, from 9 to 14, there's 5 of them in that window.
Yeah.
It's what went really well today. Tell me about that.
Mhm.
And then if you could do one thing over, what would you do over?
Yeah.
And how would you do it over? And really having them think through not only bringing in, if I'm if I have to interact with this challenge again,
Mhm.
I've already worked through it, and so I'm going to attack it differently. And then being close to those things that go right. We spend so much time fostering the things that go wrong in our day and our business that we can get to the point to where we're so close to it that we can't see around it.
Yeah.
And if we just take that necessary, like the the dinner table is that for us, where we have a reset of sorts, where we celebrate the things that went right, we talk through the things that we'd love to have another shot at
Mhm.
that arrow, um, and then we generally get into spelling words. So my kids are a little bit different in the sense that we do, like, they just want me to put out words, and then if they don't know how to spell it, there's a phone a friend
Yeah.
mechanism to it. Um, but I say all that to say that the same space that you need to reset between work time and family time,
Mhm.
do that same thing with family.
Yeah.
What happened at your job, significant other? What happened in your school day, student? Even goal setting, it's personal, academic, and financial goals.
Yeah.
It can all be translated. Do we get anything in the
Yeah. Matt's dropping some stuff here. So let me go here. So Asha said, Matt and I started using real talk when we need to talk about something that may be an issue between us, and we need to have the conversation, uh, which I think is great. Just having open, honest conversation, put the feelings aside. Heather and I, when we have difficult conversations, this is going on YouTube, so I won't say exactly what we do, but we put ourselves in a situation where it's hard to be mad, even in having a tough conversation. I can share with you guys later. It won't. It won't be appropriate for YouTube,
Don't think we
but
need to.
but you find those things. Um,
So I think on that point, I think it correlates really well. Denise and I talk artery versus blood vessel
hmm,
Okay.
I like that illustration. I think I know
because
where you're going.
that illustration also works from personal relationship versus business relationship.
Hmm,
A business relationship is a blood vessel.
okay.
You can nick it and it will get patched up. Hey,
Uh,
thank you for your patience. I'm sorry it took a little longer to get back to you. Here's the contract you requested.
yeah.
Whereas you nick an artery, those
Hmm,
are harder to repair.
yeah.
They bleed for longer
They
and
bleed
then they
faster.
explode.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes when Denise and I are having more friction in our relationship, we talk about whether or not, hey, is this a blood vessel issue or is this an artery issue?
That's really interesting. It's good to have a mechanism for identifying what kind of conversation you're having. So for you and Denise, it's blood vessel versus artery. For Heather and I, we talked about this last week. It's which circle are we in? Are we in
Yeah.
the inner circle, which is just us? Is it the outer circle where it's us and the kids? Is it the extended circle where it's us, where it's extended family? And then is it beyond that where it's friends? And then the last one will be strangers and people we don't know. Like you got to know what conversation you're having because you may not be on the same conversation. You may think it's an artery. She thinks it's a blood vessel, and now you're having very different conversations.
So, I mean, the theme of tonight is open communication
Yeah,
and having an understanding of how are you communicating
Yeah.
and what was the
yeah.
intended communication.
And taking that 90% responsibility for if they received it wrong, they didn't receive it wrong. You communicated wrong based on how they receive.
One thing that I do, and I've been doing this for years now, but it took me years to do it wrong or not at all, to get it. But when I'm sharing difficult information or hard truth, if you will,
Hmm.
what did you hear?
Yeah.
Just ending my statement, because my intention is not to hurt you.
Hmm.
My intention is to get it out of me,
Yeah.
so you know what's going on. But to to end my statement with, what did you hear when I said this?
Yeah, Asha says reflective listening. Absolutely. The let's take that a level deeper, because reflective listening is taking accountability for how am I hearing you, and let me relay back what I'm hearing to confirm that it's what you're saying, and give you the opportunity to rephrase if I'm receiving it wrong. So it's taking responsibility for what you're communicating, but also take responsibility for how you're receiving it,
Yep.
and letting the person know.
100%.
Another, this goes deeper. I'm a big believer, and I will always be in some form of therapy. Let that settle, because a lot of people there's a stigma around therapy. Here's why. I've taken over the years when I run into I have anger. Um, I can get there are lots of inanimate objects that no longer exist because of moments of anger. Let's put it that way. I know myself, so I train in martial arts to learn to control that side and tame the lion, so to speak. But on the therapy side, and that can be talking to your pastor, that can be with a licensed therapist, that can be with a close confidant or mentor, someone appropriate, obviously. I'm a big believer men to men, women to women. Um, Taking account for the wounds you have. Most men, I would say 9 out of 10, have a father wound. There's a statistic, and this is why family is so important. If you take kids of a single mom versus kids of a single dad, the kids of the single mom are exponentially more likely to end up in jail, drugs, trouble, things like that, than kids of a single father. Not because dads are better, but because the role of a father in kids' lives is so significant to their identity, and that's why the partnership, I believe, between husband and wife, man and woman, is so important. But you have to take account for if you flip off and you have an extreme reaction to something, there's hurt there. So for men, if you get angry, go past that, go deeper. What am I hurt by?
Yeah.
Did I is it an insecurity when my wife says, "Hey, we I thought we had money for that." And you get upset, you get angry, you probably feel like you're a failure. If you go deep enough, you'll find there's actual hurt there. There's a thing you need to deal with that you're reacting out of. So you're reacting to a wound, and as opposed to being aware of it and then pausing and saying, when you ask me that, what's your concern? Because I'm receiving that as criticism about my ability to provide, but knowing who you are, knowing you love me, I assume that's not what you're saying.
Yeah.
And then it gives, and I'm quoting conversations. It gives my wife an opportunity to say, well, no, that's because she has her own style of communicating. No, I just am concerned, and I just thought we had this, but now we don't have it. I'm just curious what happened.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so it's not about me; it's just about the situation.
Yeah.
And that's hard for people to do, because I can speak personally. I'll be very transparent. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a very direct, transparent person. Because I know how I am, because I do this work. I spend a lot of hours at retreats and therapy, working through those wounds to identify what are the parts of me that are wounded and broken, so I can make them whole and I can become better. We'll do it with our physical body. We'll work out. We'll go to physical therapy. We'll do it in our education. We'll do it in our knowledge and our business. But when it comes to the emotional stuff, the real vulnerabilities, that's where we're like, I don't want to talk about that stuff. I don't want to dive into it. But there's so much there for us if we're willing to. And if you have people who are willing to walk through it with you, I found the men around me, uh, I wouldn't be here today if those men hadn't been beside me and said, "Hey, I got you. Let's go through this together." I literally would not be here.
Yeah. I think understanding that your feelings are the filters that you communicate through.
Yeah.
It's not what you're speaking to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So understanding that we have feelings, we have emotions.
Mhm.
There's over 140 emotions that make up this human experience. Knowing where you are and how you're communicating, you may very well mean everything that you say, but you don't mean to land it on the target that you've shot it at.
Yeah. That's really good. So I want to end with this, because we're at the top of the hour. we didn't get into business tactics, but we really did, because your business is built on the foundation of you and your relationships. And we've seen business owner after business owner, business fall apart because of their inability to manage relationships and their unwillingness at times because of fear, pride, whatever. The business falls apart because they're not willing to show up and say, I got to be better as a husband, I got to be better as a father. And when you have a family owned business, which I don't know the statistics on it exactly, but it's a large percentage of businesses in America, small and medium sized businesses, they are family owned and family run. And if those relationships are deteriorating, your business will be a reflection of those relationships. And that is why so many successful people in business, you'll see the significant other they started with, the kids and the family they started with, they get down the line, business is successful, and those relationships are completely destroyed, but they have a business. So the question for you, in 10 years time, which would you be okay with if you had to choose? And the great thing is you don't. If you had to choose between a successful business and a broken family, or a successful family and broken business, which would you choose? If you say successful family and broken business, then you're on track to have a successful family and a successful business, because you don't have to choose one or the other. You can have both by making the family the priority. And that's what we're about at Altru. It's about people. Take care of your families. We do it for ourselves, we do it for our staff, and we do it for our clients. Because at the end of the day, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and yet lose his soul and lose his family? Nothing. So we love you guys. If you're watching this, please subscribe, please follow. Our heart is to just give a lot and help a lot of people. There's no sell on this. There's not even a call to action other than, hey, get more from us. We hope this was valuable. Hope it was a blessing to you. We appreciate all of you, and we'll see you on the next episode of Business Builders.